So in order to do example 1.3, we'll insert another code chunk and create this model. So I'm going to call this example 1.3, and we're going to use the LM function, the linear model function, and write our response variable, tilde our explanatory variable, and then data equals accord price. So this is your y variable tilde, or the sort of squiggle, and then your explanatory variable, comma, data equals accord price. What this first line does is just save all of the results into this thing called example 1.3. Then we need a second piece of code to ask R to give us back all of the summary results of that model. And for some reason, I'm having trouble running this iteratively. So I will also just, another way to do this is just to knit the file. So you can knit the file kind of over and over again, try again, and then this comes up with, right, we saw this from example 1. Here's our scatter plot from example 2. And I can explain how to get rid of this extra material. And then we have example 3. So this looks pretty much like what we see in the book, with the mileage and the intercept, and then this extra material at the bottom that we'll start to go over in class. So then to go back, the next piece that happens in after example 1.3 is that it wants us to create a visual of explaining this regression line. So we can insert another code chunk and basically start with that scatter plot from before. So I'm just going to copy that. You could copy this text. I'm going to type it again just for the benefit of repetition. So x equals mileage, y equals price. And the order here actually doesn't really make a difference. We could do y equals price and then x equals mileage in that order. Data equals accord price. So this will just give us the scatter plot that we had before. What we want to do is to add the regression line to this. So then we can add, using another function, geom smooth. Again, it'll pop up with some options for you. And then there's a bunch of different ways. What this is doing is then adding in a line that is going to be a fit of the data. But there's a bunch of different ways that you could put in a line. So we need to tell R what kind of method to use. So we'll say method equals, in quotes, LM for linear model. And it will include some gray area. That's the standard error around that regression line that we don't necessarily need. So we can say SE equals false. And then let's run that again. And again, I'm having some trouble running that iteratively for some reason. So I'm just going to knit the whole file again and we'll be able to see. And this is actually not a bad example of being able to knit over and over again can be really useful. And it's a useful way to double check, keep knitting. It'll write over the file. It may overwrite something, but it will also be a way to double check that the PDF is going to look the way that you want it to look. And so here again, we have what we see in the book, right? So there's this regression line that goes through the scatter plot. The visual is a little different in terms of format, but the results are the exact same. You'll also notice that the code appears before the material that is the output, and that's similar for not just visuals, but also this regression model. That's actually a useful thing for us to have at this point, because in the PDF that you generate and turn in, it'll illustrate for those who are reviewing your work what your code was that generated that those results. And so again, you can go back and kind of play around with the formatting if you want, but that's essentially what is going on in example 1.1 is that we've brought in the data, we printed that out, then we created a first scatter plot that was using qplot out of the tidyverse package. Then in example 1.3, we created the numeric output of the regression model and a qplot scatter plot with both the scatter plot and the linear model on top of that. And that's example 1.3 and pretty much all of chapter 1.1.